The
You
same
gonna
day
make
you
sure
moved.
report?
You ran away the same day they moved, is what they're trying to say. Okay.
Yes. I ran away the same day they moved.
Okay.
No. So they know they did wrong, which is why they're lying to hide it, because they know that it would be bad if they finally told the truth. I mean, okay. Oh, see, this is what I mean. These people they're different. When you finally said, okay, you'd written the book, you had finally got the strength to write your book. How did you feel when you were finally able to publish it? This is your life story as your autobiography, to be able to say, I have finally, after everything, been able to get this story out and publish it. How did you feel when you finally achieved that?
You know what? I felt great. I have to tell you, it was a feeling that I never felt before. I was very happy when I first got my proofread. When I published the book, they sent me the proofread through the mail, and my kids was very excited. You know, and they read it to me, and I was like, wow. You know, that just gave me enough courage to keep going. That just gave me courage to want to write and just tell my story, because I really wanted to get out. You know, I published with a company called Art Book Binder over in Canada. He published it for me, and I did a self-publishing, but it was really touching. It made me feel great just to be able to. I wrote it and put it on paper, and you know, since 2011, my eyesight, you know, my left eye, and have gotten even worse. You know, the left eye I have no sight. The right eye I have a little sight. So when I wrote that, I was just so happy that I finally got that first book out to tell some of my story. It encouraged me to write the second one, to keep going, and to write the third one.
Absolutely. And as we already know, you have you said, is it 2, 3, 4? You know?
Yes.
So, it's amazing. People, you are listening to the Ask Avani Show. I am so amazed and so honored that you have agreed to come on the show today, Emily. I have to say this because we have so many questions to ask you. I told you before I'd even read your book, I had so many questions I wanted to ask you, and the questions are just going to keep coming. I hope you don't mind. Oh my God.
I don't mind. Mrs. Wallace, anything that's in that book, if a person want to ask me a question, Mrs. Wallace can answer that question, because it's like, it happened to me, and it still with me, but I'm being strong about it and keep moving.
And Avani, and Emily and Avani, I wanted to ask one question before you ask a question, because I had something that I had thought about also when I heard it earlier in the show. That first night that you were homeless, your family had left you, and evidently you survived that, because we're talking to you now. Did you try to go back to your school to interact, or did you, from that point, as I go through and I'm going to be reading the book myself, I make sure that when there's an interview that I'm not conducting, I like to hear it fresh, and that's why I hadn't read the book. But that's the first thing on the agenda this evening when I get back home, will be to start reading your book.
I told you, Kairos.
It's a must.
Oh, you should have read it.
No. I'm really happy that I did it this way, because it's really been informative, and it's been really telling to hear you tell your story. But after that first night, and did you start starting to evolve and live on the streets? Did you go back to the school, or
I didn't go. I didn't go back to the school then. No, I didn't. I was just too afraid. I didn't know what to do, but. Maybe like about, I would say probably like about a couple of weeks, maybe a week and a half. I went to some school, because by then for the area I was lost, so I didn't know how to get back. So I went into a school, and I went and sat in an 8th grade classroom so I can eat. I knew they have lunch there. So I went into a school where I can eat, and but I had to go into the classroom, so I can eat. So happily then, I don't know, was it a substitute teacher or not, but she didn't notice me. Wow. But, so I stayed in the school. I stayed in the classroom. When it's time to go to lunch, I went to lunch, and then I went back again. I left school and I walked, stayed in that area because I got to eat. Back then, you can go get breakfast and you can get lunch. Wow. So I decided to go back again, but then it was the original teacher, and he realized I wasn't supposed to have been in there.
Yeah.
So and I ran out that school because I was hearing so many different stories that they were going to lock me up or I'm going to be in a home. I was scared. From different kids, I was scared. So I ran out the school and I never went back.
Wow. And you couldn't feel to ask somebody because obviously as a child you were terrified and you didn't know what they were going to do to you. You said. I didn't know, to be honest with you, Avani. I didn't know. As I've been out there and going through all this, I didn't know whether they would believe my mother. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what my mother would say to these. I didn't know whether I was so afraid. I didn't know whether I was going to end up back with my two brothers molesting me. I just didn't know. And you didn't want that.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I wanted my mother, but I did not want to keep being molested inside the house either.
Exactly.
So there was a lot going on. I didn't know. Honestly, I didn't know.
But
if I knew what I knew today, I would have went to the state of Michigan to get some help, and that's why I speak out to kids like I do.
Yeah, I mean, I have to ask you. I keep asking you, I know, in so many different ways, but you exhibit so much strength. I mean, I have to say this. When did you decide that not only did you have the strength to speak out, because obviously you had support of your family, your husband, your children, and the fact is you don't just speak out and the shivers just run down my spine as I was about to say this, but you speak out so candidly. You speak out and you just tell it exactly, so raw about what happened to you. How did you decide that you not only had the strength to do that, but you also wanted to help others? I mean, nobody would think that, but when did you decide you could do that?
My husband asked me to I should try to put a speech together for the kids. And I told him, I said, well, hey, I should put it, my life story or something that happened. Because I don't want people to think, and ain't nothing wrong with that, when, you know how you go to a school and they have speakers there and those speakers have not been through it. They just speak about it because they got educated up on it. I want kids and I want people to know that Mrs. Wallace been through it. I've been a victim several times, and I want people to know that I'm not just, and like I said, ain't nothing wrong with the people that go to the schools and they speak and they got educated on it. That's fine, but I'm coming straight from me that's been through it, that went through it, and that's why I want kids. That's why I say my name is Emily Wallace, because I want them to know that I've been through this. That's why I tell it, what my speech, like I said before, my speech is my life. It's something that I made up that happened to me, so I just spoke it out. Yeah. And I want them to know, 'cause I don't want them to be up listening to me and say, "Oh, she doesn't know. She ain't been through nothing like." I want them to know that I've been through it.
Yeah, you have definitely been through it and then some. I mean, so your husband encouraged you to write the speech, but so how did you actually start going into the schools? Because getting into speaking into schools and as you said, you want the children to know about these things so that they can be mindful. This is the type of thing that could happen.
Well,
so you must be on the lookout.
I went into, I spoke with a Boys and Girls Club guy, and he read my book. And he contacted me back, and he said, Mrs. Wallace, can you come in and talk to the kids about your book? And these kids was like 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. Wow. And I said, yeah, I can do that. So I went there. It was in Pontiac. I went there and I, spoke with the kids there. And it seemed like the kids, I had the kids' full attention. I'm talking about over maybe 50 kids. And maybe 3 of them wasn't listening too well. But I had their full attention. And that's when my speech, the speech that you heard on my
YouTube, was it YouTube?
Yeah, on YouTube. It's on YouTube too. I was speaking at a school, and I was not aware that my daughter was video camming me.
Oh wow!
She was recording me as I speak with her phone.
Mm-hmm.
And so then she surprised me with it, and she said, "Mom, I put it on YouTube for you." And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Yes, what she was doing at the school." I'm like, "Are you serious?" And so that really, she said, "Well, let the world hear, Mama." And I was like, "Okay," and, so that's what I did.
Wow! Oh, Emily. No, I there are so many more questions. I mean, I'm going to have to cherry pick my questions now because unfortunately my time is running out. Okay, Rose. You have said that speaking out, because you said you've been bullied and this is the ways of the things that have happened to you. This is how you have decided that you are going to help others. Now, can I just ask you, as a result of you speaking out, would you like to see more schools and colleges having more counsellors and staff available for students to talk to? Because would you encourage more educational and health institutions to be braver and allow speakers such as yourself to give these types of speeches on a regular basis in future?
Yes, I truly believe that. I believe that the kids need to hear. They need to hear, and they need to, be able to, it helps kids. Because I did a speech at a high school in my community. The principal and the leadership teacher asked me to come and speak. They asked me to come and speak, and they read my book because my son was in leadership. So the leadership teacher read my book. She took it to the principal, then he read my book, and they asked me to come to the school. So I didn't know that they were supposed to go to the board before they invite me to speak with the kids. I didn't know that. And I spoke with the kids, the principal. I spoke with the kids. I spoke with classrooms at a time. And I spoke in one classroom, and do you know, it's like 4 or 5 kids came forward, had to step out. They came giving me hugs. They had to step out and see the social worker at the school. So it encouraged kids to come out to, speak out. And that's what a lot of kids are doing. But the board got upset about it. They called me into the board. They had, my CD. They had my CD. They got it offline. They had my CD, and they said, your speech is too powerful. It's too much for our kids. And this is what high schoolers, 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th graders. And I'm saying, how? How can this speech, I'm not using no real hard profanity or nothing in that speech like that.
You're just telling it like it is. You're just being real.
And they did not want me to speak in my community where I live. They is not supporting Mrs. Wallace with this book or with my story. I did, like I said, the leadership teacher and the principal, and then I did have one lady at the library let me have a book signing. And I sold over probably like about 60 books. But other than that, and they, my community is against it.
Well, is your family, are you in the community with your biological family? Your mother and your siblings?
My mother stays away from me. I have a brother that's in my community that not speaking with me. He stayed probably like about 10 blocks from me.
Well, do you think they may have said something to the school board as an objection to try to quiet you or stop you from getting your story out?
No, I don't. I think that, to be honest, my community they just don't. A lot of teachers, not teachers, but a lot of, like teachers, like principals, and some people don't want to hear about child abuse. They don't want to. If it's going on in their school system, they do not want the public to know. They hide with child abuse. They hide it. They don't want it to be out. They might, they may have a speaker come and speak about it maybe every 2 months or every 3 months or so like that. But they just not want to hear about child abuse. They don't.
Well, they don't want to hear it from a person who's actually been through it, who is going to be real, who's going to be candid. As you said, they may